Death Squared has been out on the Nintendo Switch since July 13, but with the upcoming Japanese release and the content update for Death Squared, I thought it was the perfect time to once again put on my thinking hat and delve into another puzzle game for the Switch. I got to check out the new update for Death Squared at Tokyo Game Show, and started to fall in love with the game's charm. Death Squared is developed by SMG Studio, who for full disclosure, provided a review copy of the game. So does Death Squared cross the finish line, or is it a dud? I'm Push Dustin with Source Gaming, and let's get started with this review. Death Squared has two modes, the story mode which can be played with 1 or 2 players, and the party mode which is played with 4 players. Unfortunately, since I don't have 4 controllers for the Switch, I wasn't able to try the party mode out. However, I did play the story mode with my girlfriend and also by myself. I can definitely say the game is more enjoyable with someone by your side. The story is pretty quirky. The cubes that the players control are being tested by Omnicorp for their AI research. Dave, the research assistant, can be heard through voiceovers that play at the start of the levels, and has comical interactions with Iris, a computer assistant. Some of the lines of dialogue can be random, but some will depend on how the players are doing. For example, Dave and Iris will make jabs at players when they are taking too long to solve a puzzle. The writing is extremely tight, and the voice acting is solid, and overall it really enhances Death Squared's experience. There are some jokes in Death Squared that will date the game in the future, such as referencing that annoying Windows 10 update. However, for the time being, the game's writing is perfect, and it's something that I would strongly recommend people checking out. So let's go ahead and look at the gameplay. Death Square will drive you insane. Like the name suggests, players who take on the challenge of Death Square will find themselves dying a lot. The game is all about experimentation and communication. The gameplay can sometimes be very frustrating because it relies too much on experimentation. Players will sometimes die just because pressing a button will suddenly activate a laser, or spikes will suddenly come out of the ground. The game presents minimal information to the players. Thankfully, respawning and restarting the level is extremely quick. However, the game does keep track of the player's total death, and I haven't seen a way to reset that status, which is unfortunate as I played the game with some friends who were under the influence. Levels have a lot of variety among them. Sometimes players will need to control multiple cubes, or sometimes moving a cube will adjust the positions of lasers. There's 80 levels for the main story mode, and I never felt like the levels were repetitive or boring. Players are only able to move with the cubes. There isn't jump-in or a lot of platforming. Death Squared doesn't have as many gimmicks as Puzzle Adventure Blockle, which I've reviewed previously, but Death Squared utilizes what it has in interesting ways. I do wish that there was online co-op. There are ways to signal with the blocks, so having online co-op without voice chat is possible. However, Death Squared is probably at its best when playing with friends in the same room, so I'm not sure if it's entirely essential. It would be a nice option at the very least. After completing the story mode or the party mode, players will unlock additional levels to play. Some of the later levels in story mode can be really difficult and take a while to complete, so let's go ahead and look at the presentation. Death Squared has a pretty solid presentation that really enhances the overall package. Death Squared seems to take a lot of inspirations from Portal, but doesn't outright copy it or tread the same ground. The graphics look great when docked. The music doesn't get annoying, and as I mentioned before, the voice acting is fantastic. I wish there was more variety with the level design, as they all have the same generic lab theme. The camera angle can be a problem at times in Death Squared. There's one level in particular that I wasn't aware that I could have landed on a different platform because I couldn't really judge the distance, or see behind it. Being able to rotate the camera would allow players to see the whole level and thus better understand the puzzles. I can understand why that option isn't there for multiple players, but that option should be available for a single player. So how does Death Squared stack up? Let's go ahead and get to the verdict. Death Squared does a lot of things right. Overall, it's an extremely solid experience. With 2 Joy-Cons in every system, Death Squared feels right at home on the Switch. Find someone to play Death Squared with and enjoy the ride. I give Death Squared a 4.5 out of 5. Thank you guys so much for listening to this review. If you like this type of content, make sure you like and subscribe. Also, if you've checked out Death Squared in the past, let us know what you think in the comments below. This is Push Dustin. You can follow me by checking out the social media links in the description below.